Longhorn Nation, Sooner fans, welcome to episode 143 of the Bevo Podcast, the only podcast exclusively dedicated to covering the greatest rivalry in college football, the University of Oklahoma and the University of Texas. I'm here with my man, Kevin Miller. I am John Whitson. Kevin, I assure Texas fan that we will discuss the loss to Georgia last night in Austin, Texas. I assure Texas fan that we will talk about the turnovers and the lack of conversion of turnovers by Texas very soon. I am not immune to the fact that the spotlight of college football was in Austin, Texas last night against the Georgia Bulldogs. We will talk about what a douche Kirby Smart is, even though I was pulling for Georgia. We will discuss how fans throwing beer bottles on the field will, I guess, now effectively overturn really bad pass interference calls. Those things will be discussed. We will talk about Quinn Ewers and his total lack of effectiveness and getting pulled and bitched for Arch Manning, only to be followed up by the same level of ineffectiveness, only to be then put back in the game and cobble together some semblance of an offense in the second half. That will be discussed. We will talk about Texas's offensive line and their inability to block anybody at any point during that game, and the shock value that I had watching that happen, leading to the most damning stat of the night: Texas's 29 rush yards against the University of Georgia. Is this the first time that Texas has felt the loss of Cedric Griffin? Not Cedric Griffin, Cedric Baxter, CJ Baxter.
CJ Baxter. Hey, shout out to Cedric Griffin, though.
Cedric Griffin, love that guy.
Love that.
Not really.
Yeah.
Not really. Thank you, Kevin. I guess the narrative was true. And we're going to talk about the narrative, Kevin. We will talk about everything I talked about. And the narrative that Texas had played nobody was clearly played out last night. But Kevin, you, a Texas fan, escorted your wife to Norman, Oklahoma yesterday for an 11:45 kickoff against lowly, middling, offensively inept South Carolina, in what Oklahoma is probably in its last favored game in the SEC this year. And by 11:52, the game was over. The game was over, Kevin. It was the worst possible confluence of plays I might have ever seen back to back to back at the University of Oklahoma. After last week, when I said it cannot get worse, it cannot get worse than 3 points against Texas. We scored 9 against South Carolina. Apparently, we had no idea that you couldn't block their defensive ends with tight ends. Even though on this very podcast, a Texas fan, i.e. Kevin Miller, and I know I'm talking a lot, Kevin, we're going to get you in here just like we're going to talk about Texas. It might be a minute, though. Kevin Miller points out they've got the 2 best defensive edges in the SEC, and Oklahoma's trying to block them with Bauer Sharp.
It was unbelievable, man. Just seeing it in person was that much worse.
I wasn't there, Kevin. I didn't even watch it on TV. I had it on. I got a pretty cool truck back in the spring. You drove with me. We went to a playoff game.
It's a great truck.
And was it? Yeah, we went to a playoff game, right?
It was not a playoff game, but it was late in the season.
It was late in the season. Important game. It was fun. Thank you for the ticket. But the tailgate will drop down, and you can open it up, and there's kicker speakers in the tailgate.
That I didn't know.
Oh, yeah, it's rad. Now, I don't even have a smartphone, so I don't take advantage of it all the time, but this was perfect. I backed the soccer fields we were at. I backed the truck right up next to them, dropped the tailgate, dropped the speakers, connected it to the app. I got Toby rolling. I got Ted Lehman. And with 15 minutes into the game, I folded it back up, and said, I'm done. I can't deal with it, Kevin. I can't deal with it. I have never seen it. Here's the thing. There was a text. Shout out to my friend Sean Simpson. There was a text from Sean Simpson after we're down 21-0 that said, if we put it on the first down of each of the 3 drives, meaning we never ran a play, we would be 0-0 at this point in the game.
Pretty unbelievable stuff.
All it speaks to, Kevin, is a complete lack of preparation, of defense, of anything resembling a game plan that I've ever seen out of the University of Oklahoma. This is South Carolina, dude. I'm sorry. It's one thing to get your ass kicked by Texas, who at the time was the number 1 team in the country, who's up for this game like they'll never be up for any other game. It's another thing to lay an egg at home against South Carolina and then get disrespected by Shane Beamer to the point where the dude is going for 2 on you and running fake field goals. I've never seen anything like it. I've never heard anything like it. And I don't even know where you go from here. Kevin, just take the podcast over. I can't deal with it.
Yeah, man. I mean, like you said, we talked about this, their edges being dynamic. Luke Kennard, Kennard, and of course, Dylan Stewart, the incredible freshman. And on the first play of the game, literally the first play of the game, you run a play action and you try to block Kennard with a tight end. I mean, he gets shoved into the backfield, gets pressure on Hawkins, forces an errant throw that is, of course, intercepted. I'm thinking like, okay, this is a nightmare start. And no, the nightmare had only just begun. I mean, they go down, they score right away. All right. And it wasn't really good complimentary football by the defense either. Norris Sellers breaks the tackle, gets into the red zone.
It wasn't great, but it was. I mean, my God.
I'm not blaming the defense, but
talking about a turnaround, it's on OU's 40,
yeah.
And OU's literally shocked that this has already happened. Go ahead.
But they get into the end zone. I mean, you get the ball back, and I mean, just immediately give it right back to him.
Not right back. This is a strip sack for a touchdown.
Yeah. I mean, and yeah, they hit the quarterback, ball flies out, pops right into the defensive lineman's hands, and he runs. I mean, no one's even near him. Runs it back for a touchdown. I mean, the stadium's already booming at that point. We're not even 5 minutes into the football game, and the stadium is literally booming, which I know that happens, but it's just kind of rare to see a stadium booming that early in a football game. You know?
Yeah.
And then the pick six right afterwards. I'm like, okay, so coaches are notoriously can be overthinkers. You know, you stress about the game, especially the night before. Did I prepare enough? Is the game plan right? All that. His worst nightmare could not have been as bad as that game actually started for OU. I could not believe it. And I know a lot of things have been going bad with the offense. But the one thing with Hawkins that everybody said, well, he hasn't really turned it over. I mean, he got stripped by Anthony Hill Jr. against Texas. Anthony Hill Jr. is a great player. He's trying to make a play there. But these, man, I mean, and it was happening just so quickly before there was any rhythm established at all. And it's not like South Carolina was doing anything exotic.
No.
They just said, our guys are better than your guys. We're going to get pressure with 4 and force your young quarterback into mistakes. And just a nightmare start. And next thing you know, your guy JFA is back in the game. His red shirt's gone now. I don't know what to make of this. This looks bad for you.
I don't know. I think you have to pile on the offensive staff for not recognizing the one strength of South Carolina's team, which is their edges. To come out in the first 5 minutes with so little disregard for the talent at the edge or ineptitude. I don't know what the word is, Kevin. It was just like, hey, these edges are really, 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 really good. and we are going to just assume that they're not going to make any sort of play in the first 5 minutes of this game. We're going to assume that for the year, our worst blocker on offense, Bauer Sharp, can handle one of or both of the two best edges in the SEC.
Yeah,
I don't know what to say. Like,
utter incompetence, man.
You want to talk about, here's the deal. This is the problem, okay? It's so simple or so easy or so lazy for OU fans. Well, I mean, they don't have their 5 receivers. Their offensive line isn't where it needs to be. They've got freshman quarterbacks. Okay, none of those things I just mentioned have to do with blocking the edge with a terrible block. And it was every one of those plays. The 3 were all tied in bust blocking edges.
Yeah, none of this was new, right? And
No.
I think anybody can sympathize with the fact when you have a lot of guys out at receiver. But again, this is not new. You knew this going in. You didn't wake up Saturday and realize that you weren't going to have 5 receivers and that the offensive line has not been good this year. None of this is a surprise. In the scheme, Bauer Sharp, I mean, he can't block anything. And everybody knows it.
Everybody knows it.
So
let alone Kevin,
it's shocking.
Let alone one of the best edges in the SEC. I mean, I keep saying it, but because we talked about it, everybody talked about it. We're not like unique. This isn't like, well, we told him. No, the world told him that. You look at South Carolina, and man, they're really good on the defensive line. They really got 2 dudes that are really good on the defensive line. They're edge players. It's like having you said it. It's like having 2 Colin Simmons on the defensive line. And dude, we go. So you have a offensive line struggling or whatever. And I said this. Well, the best way to neutralize this is you got to kind of run at these guys. We're going to have to play field position. We're going to have to do this. Dude, it's 14-0 before we run the ball. Now, why haven't we run the ball? Because we suck at running the ball. So now, do I blame them for not running the ball? Well, I don't know. Maybe because we're down 14-0. But I guess hindsight's 2020 when you look at the scope of the year and realize we're really crappy at running the ball. So why run the ball? So I get that there's a catch-22. I get that I'm armchair quarterbacking on Sunday at 10:50 a.m. However, you've got 2 really fast edges. They're killing you. Your defense is supposed to be good. They weren't great on that turnover, but they're supposed to be good, Kevin. And they prove later in the game to be good.
Yes.
They hold their running back to 33 yards rushing, basically like 50 yards rushing for the entire game for the entire South Carolina offense.
Yeah, they had 74 yards.
We actually outgained South Carolina passing and rushing. So all you have to do early on is not lose the game. And what did they do? They lost the damn game in the first 5 minutes.
The first 5 minutes. I mean, and again, the story's out on OU, right, this year. If you get a lead, if you get a 2-score lead, the game is over.
It's over.
Tennessee did it. Texas did it. And now South Carolina. And again, it wasn't even on the defense. That's the thing. I mean, you'd like to maybe play a little better complimentary football on the first drive, not miss that tackle on the Norris Sellers. But missed tackles happen early in the football game as you're still getting a feel for your opponent, right? So, yeah, I mean, I don't know where – that's the hard part for OU fans is where do you go from here? There's nothing that you can think about that can improve this situation.
It is – I hate making Lincoln Riley references this early in an episode. But it was – as I'm watching the Texas-Georgia game, which we will talk about, especially the pass interference call. I'm on the Twitters, and there's literally people saying they'd rather have Lincoln Riley, who just lost to Maryland, okay? Maryland, who is worse than South Carolina, whatever. They're now 3-4. They're terrible. Last year with Caleb Williams, they were 7-5. The last 2 years at Oklahoma, we were on a downward trend, both offensively and defensively. And there is a contingent, Kevin, of OU fan questioning if we would be better off with Lincoln Riley as our coach. and he's 3-4 at SC right now in the Big Ten. I'm not saying we would be. You know I don't believe that, but that is to the level of ineptness and ignorance that has occurred on the field at Owen Field and on fields that Oklahoma has played on this year, that we are wondering if a 3-4 coach coming off a 7-5 record would be better than what we have right now.
Well, for all his faults, it never looked that bad at OU under Lincoln Riley. I'm not saying he would be better. I'm not deciding, but it just never looked like that.
Kevin, 100%. I do not disagree with you. You can make a lot of arguments. The teams were trending down. Cupboard was bare when BB comes in. We talked about having to rebuild the roster, blah, 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 blah. I get all of those things, and I agree. But they're 3-4, Kevin.
Correct.
They're 3-4. It's not like we're looking at Dan Lanning. If somebody wants to say, man, I wish we'd have hired Dan Lanning, get it.
Yeah.
Get it.
Yeah.
100%. I wish we hired Dan Lanning too at this point. 100%. Like, no disagreement. Like, yes, he's undefeated. He's in the top 5. Yada, 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 yada. Okay. That's how we're talking. But I'm saying that there's an argument that a 3-4 coach is a better coach than what we have now. I don't agree with that, but even you just said it right now. It was never this bad. It was never this bad. I don't know, though. I think we get into the SEC with Lincoln Riley. We're seeing what he's experiencing in the Big Ten. I think it could be this bad.
Yeah, I know, but the thing with USC is, real quick, the thing with USC is they don't seem to know how to finish games, but they don't look incompetent on either side of the ball. They just, for whatever reason, cannot finish out a game. They can't close.
That's fine. Yes, you're right. Yeah. And I'm sorry but at the same point, you're right. Back to my original rant. We suck. We suck at offense. It's terrible. I've never seen anything like it. Kevin, I was a sophomore in college in 1998 at the University of Oklahoma. I saw John Blake roll out 3 different offenses in 3 games. He went back to the wishbone for a couple games. Like, I know how bad it can get, and it is this bad. And I don't know what you do. I don't know how you address it. I mean, we're opening it up as an 18-point underdog against Ole Miss. And Kevin, I don't know how they keep it that close. And I don't think I'm exaggerating.
No, neither do I. I mean, when you can't move the ball, you can't run it, you can barely throw it. Jackson Arnold, when he came in, which we'll get into that deeper,
he was fine.
He's running for his life, right? He did some things, but he's running for his life.
Yeah,
against 50%,
those guys. 50% completion percentage. It's
correct. He had no time to throw, and again, the receivers have trouble separating. You hit the one big play to Brendan Thompson. Nice play, nice throw.
Did you see who our best player? Did you see who our best player on offense was?
Yes, whoever that is.
Jacob Jordan.
I'm like, who the heck is that dude?
It goes 6 catches, 86 yards, 14.3 yards a catch. He's a walk-on out of Southlake. I don't know if it's Southlake Carroll. Is there more than one high school in Southlake?
No, there is not.
So it's Southlake Carroll.
Yeah.
Right. So he's okay. So he's from Southlake Carroll. 5'9", 182. I mean, I don't know that it's not like if he's playing the last 2 weeks, we're winning those games. That's not, I don't know that anybody's going to make that argument. But that's literally your best player on offense right now is a 5'9" white guy out of Texas.
Who's a walk-on.
Who's a walk-on.
Because we've seen some 5'9" white guys who are scholarship guys who can ball out. Or even Drake Stoops can ball out.
Was he recruited? Yeah, probably, yeah. I'm not trash talking this kid. I'm just saying the facts. He's a 5'9" white guy it's a walk-on.
Yes.
They have not seen the field all year.
No, he should not be a key player at the University of Oklahoma. He just shouldn't. No disrespect to him. Shout out to the kid for stepping up and making plays when nobody else was interested.
When nobody else is making plays.
But the fact that that guy is on the field over a Jaquez Petaway really shows you what they think of him right now. An ultra-talented receiver in a walk-on is playing, running routes, getting open, and getting thrown the ball multiple times over you. There must be something about that kid. He must not work hard, or he must not get the offense. He must not run routes well. there's something there. Because why is a walk-on getting so many snaps over him?
I've said it now all year, and it's so frustrating, Kevin, when you watch other teams. Okay, other teams, maybe not Texas last night. Other teams throughout the year they improve. They get better. Things get better. They don't make the same mistakes that they made in week 1 and week 2. I think about Notre Dame. I think about LSU. I think about teams like this that are better than they were. Clemson.
Texas A&M even.
Texas A&M is a great example. Clemson. Even Missouri yesterday. Teams get better as the year goes on. If it's possible, Kevin, and I don't know that it is, but if it's possible, Oklahoma offensively and as a team has regressed every single game. And back to the injuries. We know there's injuries. But guess what? There hasn't been injuries at tight end. There hasn't been injuries at running back. And you've had your offensive line back now for 4 weeks. And you can't do diddly do with it. It's maddening. It is mad. And then you've got a defense where now you tell the defense, well, oh my gosh, I mean, you didn't stop them on the one drive that they scored. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They allowed 14 points. 14 points is what they allowed.
In order for you guys to win, the defense has to score.
Apparently, every time they touch the ball. Or every time
you have to have multiple. You have to have at least one defensive touchdown every game in order to have a chance, which is unfair for any defense.
It's unrealistic. It's dumb. And look, you look at like Georgia's defense last night, and you're like, oh my God. I mean, like, I know OU's defense is pretty good. Like, I think they are. And then you look at a Georgia defense, you're like, son of a. I mean, those dudes.
Yeah, and we're gonna get to that.
And you know what?
The dudes,
man. We'll come back to griping about Oklahoma. We'll come back.
Well, real quick, hold on, real quick.
Oh no, please! If you guys
move on, just so what the
heck
do you make? Wow, yeah.
4 turnovers, bro.
What do you make of the quarterback situation? Right? It seemed like Arnold was going to save his red shirt, hit the portal. Now he comes in the game. The red shirt is gone. Michael Hawkins has played in what? Has he played in 4 games now? He played against what? Tennessee, Auburn, Texas. And now South Carolina. So if he plays in another game, he loses his red shirt. Maybe that's not important to the coaching staff or to either one of those players. But I'm just curious as to what you think about this because, again, we talked about this earlier in the season, but you could find yourself in a situation where you could potentially lose both of these guys if it's not managed correctly. What do you make of this? Have you heard anything about where this thing is going to go from here?
I have no idea. My supposition. Well, first of all, let me give credit to Jackson Arnold because the dude could have quit 2 games ago. I mean, he could have.
Yeah.
And there's a large contingent of new age college football fans and pundits that would have agreed with him or supported him or showed understanding. A large group would have been like, he's quitting on his team and da-da-da-da-da. But there would have been a significant portion of new age college football engagees saying that's the right decision. Save your red shirt. The team's lost. They turned their back on you. They're terrible.
Yeah.
Blah, blah,
I mean, Kelly Bryant did that at Clemson, when he lost his job to Trevor Lawrence. He had played in 4 games. And he actually left the team.
Yes. And so that could have happened. So as an old school fan, much like yourself, credit to Jackson Arnold. He's a teammate. And that, for whatever his faults are offensively and whatever's going on, he's at least at this point, a very solid dude. And his people around him are telling him, hey, suck it up. And I appreciate that. And as for Michael Hawkins, now the same option is available for him. And I'm not saying that I'm telling him to suck it up. I think to your point, it's going to be fascinating to see, do they play Hawkins again? That is now the question. And if you're Hawkins, do you want to be played again? Because this season is going nowhere. And honestly, when you talk about seeing snaps and seeing ball and getting reps and all the stuff that you talk about when you want to get a player to play, None of this is helping his development right now. It's not.
Not at all.
You can't go get your ass kicked in the pocket for 3 plays in a row and somehow convince somebody that, well, that's beneficial to him. No, it's not. No, it's not.
No.
And so I don't know. I think that Oklahoma is walking a modern day dangerous wire. It's the curse of having 2 really good, highly recruited quarterbacks. We think they're good. We don't know. 2 really good, highly recruited quarterbacks, and the very real possibility of losing both of them. And it's almost like who flinches first. You know what I mean? Like if Hawkins goes, I'm out, then Johnson Arnold's our guy, and we're going to rally around him. Or if so I honestly can. What do you outside looking in? What do you think? I mean, what should they do? I don't know.
It's really tough, right? We talked about this after the Tennessee game, and I told you I didn't think I saw enough from Michael Hawkins Jr. that warranted just automatically making him the guy, just based on what he did in the fourth quarter of that game. But to me, once you make the move, you make the move, right? I mean, look, the turnovers were horrible from Hawkins Jr. yesterday, but I mean, it was no different than what we've seen out of Jackson Arnold. To me, if you put Jackson Arnold back in the game, you're telling us that you never really should have benched him in the first place. I get pulling him, but as far as
you had to pull him, you have to pull him
because the game is 3 turnovers.
And we're gonna see that happen in the Texas game, and for good reason. It had to happen.
Yes. But now it's like, I don't know if either quarterback is going to be trusting of the staff because of this, the mismanagement of the position. That's how I think you could lose both guys.
Well, this is what I said 2 weeks or a week ago after the Texas game. These are both Oklahoma. John Finley and Seth Luttrell are both Oklahoma guys. Seth Luttrell's on a national championship team. John Finley is as Boomer Sooner as they get. And it's frustrating. But guess what? They signed him to be the Oklahoma offensive coordinator. I mean, like, this is not a surprise how Oklahoma fans treat their offensive coordinators. This is nothing new. We treated Chuck Long in 2008 this way. When we're scoring 60 a game and getting to the national championship, we are questioning Chuck Long's play calls. Like, we fired Josh Heupel, national championship winning quarterback, now the head coach at what will be probably a top 4 team in Tennessee, because it wasn't good enough. My point is, I think one of the ways to reach out to these players is to demonstrate, Brent Venables, that you're not going to accept this, that this isn't the standard, and this isn't what's going to be coaching you come spring ball. Yeah. And we are going to go find coaches that can maximize your games as 5-star, 4-star, whatever, quarterbacks. And I think unfortunately, Kevin, I think it starts now. I think you got to start having that conversation now. You got to start making the decision now. Because I think if you wait till the portal window opens to fire your coach, I think it's too late.
Correct. And you don't want to end up like A&M losing both Kyle Allen and Kyler Murray, 2 highly ranked quarterbacks in the same year. You lose both of them. You both come in as freshmen, and you lose both of them. The next thing you know, Sumlin's gone. That's head coach at Texas A&M.
It's just, I don't know, man. It is, it's bad.
Yeah, and how Brent Venables handles this situation is really going to define his whole tenure at OU, because right now, watching OU, it just seems like he is a really good offensive or defensive coordinator.
Yes.
That's how the program looks. Hey, you guys have a really good defensive coordinator. He just happens to also be the head coach. If there's no accountability for the other side of the ball, it just doesn't work. You're just a DC.
Listen, I like Brent Venables, and I really, really hope he turns it around. I want him to be successful at Oklahoma. I like what the guy's about. You can see the football knowledge. I talked about this being exhibited on the defensive side of the ball. It's there. But the rhetoric that this doesn't meet OU standard at this point in time is becoming like the adult on Charlie Brown cartoons.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I'm not even hearing nothing you're saying.
I don't even know what's happening right now because we see the same stuff now. And again, I'm not going to harp on it, but I'm going to harp on it. The interceptions that happened, the 2 interceptions and the strip that happened on Saturday in the first 3 minutes of that game, 4 minutes of that game, have absolutely nothing to do with injuries.
Yeah.
They do not. Wide receivers, Nick Anderson was not blocking those edges. Jaden Gibson was not the blocking tight end on those edges. And honestly, Bauer Sharp should have been nowhere near those edges to block
No,
them.
it's not his fault. We know what he is. He knows
We know what he is.
And
We know
clearly, the
what he
coaching staff
is.
knows what he is.
I mean, it's as effective as asking me to block those edges, and that's not a recipe for success.
No.
And so, who's the adult here, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like the old
Yeah.
Mike Gundy. Who's the adult here? Who put the kids in the right spot? Okay, look, Kevin, we've gone long on Oklahoma. I'm sorry. We've got to get to Texas. Okay, 1 versus 5, Georgia. Austin, Texas. McConaughey's there doing some weird pound thing on his arm. I don't even know what that is, but that
It's on brand for him. So right? Expect the unexpected.
It's 100% on brand. Okay, here's the story of the game. Story of the game's turnovers. Both teams committed turnovers. Both teams committed turnovers. Texas's defense was 3 and out, interception to start the game. You couldn't ask for a better start defensively when you think the offense is the best side of the ball. I mean, that's just fantastic for Texas. The problem is that you did not convert on any of those for points.
0 points.
In the first half, Quinn has a fumble, Quinn has an interception, Arch has a fumble, Georgia converts on 2 out of 3 of those. That's the ballgame.
Correct.
That's it.
Yeah.
And
yeah, correct.
Everything else, Kevin, everything else is window dressing and fireworks and people throwing bottles on the deal and pulling out Arch and not pulling out Arch and all that. But it doesn't matter. Georgia converts on 2 out of the 3 turnovers. Texas converts on 0 out of 3 turnovers, and the game's over.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, shout out to Georgia, right? Kirby Smart had a great game plan.
Defensively, especially.
The defensive game plan was elite. You could tell. I think they reminded everybody of how good they are when they're at their best defensively. And we hadn't seen it really awesome. We certainly didn't see it in the game against Alabama. But I think they're healthy, too. Michael Williams had not been a factor at all this season. I don't even think we mentioned him because I wasn't even sure if he was going to play in this game. And he was great. And, of course, the Walker kid was absolutely incredible. So they looked like a team yesterday who had recruited number 1 or number 2 in the country for the last 6 years straight. 100%. That's what that looked like. They had dudes at every position. And they were big, and they were strong, and they were fast. They were explosive. They were tough.
They lost 2 guys to targeting, which both were questionable.
They were, exactly, yeah.
But they lose 2 guys to targeting, and there was not a drop off defensively.
No,
it just wasn't.
They had dudes. I mean, and again, I think that's what Texas is hoping to become when it comes to recruiting, is to have just those kind of dudes backing up the dudes you already have. So much talent, and they were absolutely on last night. They got after Texas. Kirby just completely outcoached and out-schemed Sark. Whatever Sark's game plan was offensively, it was just completely swallowed up by Kirby Smart. And
going into the game, I said and thought Texas had the best offensive line, maybe in the country. Quinn's had all the time in the world. Your offensive tackles, did they either A, get exposed, or B, just get finally introduced to what we've always talked about as SEC level edge rushers?
Okay, it's a little bit of both, right? I still think Kelvin Banks is still going to go first round of the draft. My biggest issue, and look, you go up against elite guys, you're going to lose some battles on the offensive line. It's just how it works, right?
Yeah.
But my biggest issue with Texas last night was the play from Quinn Ewers. Okay, and I've defended
more so than the offensive line.
Absolutely. Go back and watch the highlights. Okay. His pocket presence was just not there at all.
Correct.
He was holding the ball for too long. He was not stepping up in the pocket. The thing about Quinn, we've talked about these same things for the 3 years that he's been the starting quarterback at Texas. We were excited at the beginning of this year because it looked like he had fixed those things. You watch the Michigan game. Michigan can get pressure because they have great players. Great players are going to get pressure. I don't care who you have blocking them. At some point,
you got pressure on you last week. You got pressure, at least early in the game. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's up to the quarterback to step up and make those throws. Watch the Michigan game. He was doing that. They get pressure. He steps up, hits Gunnar Helm for a touchdown. It seemed like there was improvement there. He gets hurt. He comes back. He is a completely different guy since he came back. The UTSA game that he got injured in, he was off to one of the best starts I've ever seen. It was like 14 to 15 for almost 200 yards in the middle of the second quarter. And I know UTSA isn't great, but that's just how good he's been this season. Comes back from the injury. He looks more like 2022 Quinn.
Yeah.
Than he did at the beginning of the season. Is he still hurt? There's something, either he's still injured or the injury is affecting him mentally because he's completely regressed. He was not seeing the field at all. I mean, some of those fourth downs, wide open receivers in the middle of the field, he's just standing there waiting on Gunnar Helm to uncover.
So when the game starts, it's interesting that you say that. So when the game starts, I turned my son Jeffrey was over at the house. My dad was over. We were making Halloween cookies actually, and we weren't my daughters and stuff. But anyway,
there's nothing wrong if you were making Halloween cookies. We're not going to.
I was eating Halloween cookies. Okay. How about that?
You've been making them.
I was eating them. Oh, okay. And when that first, you get that interception, and then you start, and just like the first couple of plays, if I remember right, you can correct me, were just really easy, get in rhythm kind of throws, and 4 or 5 yards, nothing crazy, but just positive yardage. Let's set a rhythm. Let's establish some movement, whatever. And I said to the other guys, I was like, hey, this is the difference between Texas and Oklahoma right now. Is when they want 5 yards, they can go get 5 yards. Like they're just really, really good at that. Sark can just scheme guys open, and it's just. The play is never really it's never a miracle that they got 5 yards. But then as Georgia starts to get going, those 5-yard plays went away. But Texas did nothing to take advantage of their aggressiveness and go downfield. There was nothing. Was Isaiah Bond hurt?
Okay, well, he got injured. I don't know if you remember. He left. You forgot you were there, so you didn't watch the game. But he left the OU game in the second quarter.
Okay.
He was on the injury report. He did play. He did start. He actually scored the touchdown.
Yeah. But during the middle of that game, though.
Correct.
During the middle of the game, he was
after he scored the touchdown and got the 2-point conversion, he got re-injured and didn't play for the rest of the game.
I just thought that. I think with Quinn, to your point, though, either his pocket awareness, and if I tend to lean towards you because you've got a good grasp of this, I think, is that. Was Sark not calling deep shots or aggressive throws downfield, or was Quinn simply not seeing them or willing to pull the trigger?
No, we had deep routes. Now, I think they covered a lot of them up. I think the coverage was good down the field.
Sure.
But no, the routes and stuff were there. He just wasn't seeing the field at all, and his pocket presence was horrible. He was doing one of two things. He's either holding the ball for too long, which led to a lot of those hits, and not stepping up in the pocket. He's just a statue in there. Or he's bailing on clean pockets. He drops back. There's no pressure. There was one, particularly in the fourth quarter, and that's when he was at his worst, honestly. And they brought a linebacker blitz. We picked it up. He had a clean.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
And he's rolling to his right, and not just to his right. He's running backwards into his right. So he's drifting away, and then the pressure's coming. He has to get rid of the ball, and he's getting hit. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? That one play where he got sacked, it was deep in our own territory. It's on third down. Kelvin Banks on Walker gets Walker to the ground. And Quinn has no awareness and still gets tripped up in the backfield. I remember Kelvin Banks got up and threw his hands up. dude's battling out here against a really, really elite edge rusher, gets the edge rusher on the ground, and we still can't get rid of the football. It was one of the worst performances I've seen from Quinn Ewers. And like you said, you know this. I've defended Quinn.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have.
And he was horrible. I don't understand. I mean, the dude got pulled in the second quarter. He was
He
so
had to
bad.
get pulled. Let's talk about that because that was a moment. I don't know that it was a key moment, but it was a moment. He did get pulled. Got replaced by Arch. Arch largely ineffective.
Yeah, correct.
He had a good run. He had one good run, and I think 3 completions. But then did he throw an interception or did he fumble?
No, fumble. Yeah, strip sack as well.
So but I thought that Sark handled that the right way. I thought he needed to come back with Quinn. After seeing, he tried to get a spark from Arch, and I think if Arch would have given him that spark, maybe even got a field goal or a touchdown drive to end the half, I think that he probably comes back with Arch. But when you don't and you see the same thing, I think you go back and say, okay, I pulled yet 3 bad turnovers, so now let's go try to win the game. Okay, let's get to the second half. Again, I think the game's decided just because of the turnovers and conversion. But we have to talk about this pass interference call.
Well, yeah, let's talk about the second half period, right? So I thought Texas, you get the ball first. It's looking bleak, right? You're down 23-0.
Very bleak.
It's looking bleak. But it's like, let's go make a game of it. It's not garbage time yet in the third quarter. You're down, technically you're down 3 scores. So they come out, go down the field, get the touchdown to Bond, get the 2-point conversion. Great. Okay. But that pass interference call, first of all, amazing play by Jahdae Barron.
It was a great play.
He takes it back. All of a sudden, we see that there's a flag back there. See the referees talking about it. Then they come out, they call pass interference on the defense. Okay, where was that at? They show the replay.
Herbie's trying to, before Herbie sees the video, okay, he's trying to defend the pass interference. Like he's talking about how, if you stop their progress, do all this kind of stuff, like he's having a conversation about justifying the call. And then he sees the call and he's like, oh.
Yeah, what is this? And then our fans throwing bottles on the field. For me, one of the worst moments I've ever seen from Texas fans. What are you doing? It was a horrible call. I know it was a horrible call. We're going to get to that part. Hold on. It was a horrible call. Well, you can't throw bottles onto the football field. I don't care.
Real quick, what are they serving in bottles?
I think they were water bottles, honestly.
Oh, were they water bottles?
They were water bottles.
They weren't like glass bottles.
No. They don't serve. No, they're smarter than that.
Right.
So, either you get cans or cups at stadiums.
Yeah,
it was water bottles and a couple of beer cans. Just dumb. And then the fact that they got together and overturned that call, I still can't believe that happened. Have you ever seen anything like that before?
Okay. The answer is no. I've never seen anything like that before. And I'm mixed about it, right? Like I'm like conflicted because it was the right thing to do. Yes. Like so often I wonder about these officials, and I was a basketball official for 3 years. It's a thankless job. Okay. Like you make mistakes. It is really hard. It's speed of the game, all these things. And in basketball, you don't get the time to confer. Like you have to make the call and go. But in football, you get together, right? We've seen it like in every football movie in the world. They all congregate and go, "Did you see that? Did you see that? You got that? You see that?" And so then they make the call. Well, once you make the call, especially pass interference, was it the Saints trying to make the playoffs or in the playoffs?
In the playoffs.
Ask my baby brother about pass interference being called, and he will go insane.
Matter of fact, that might have been the NFC Championship game.
He'll go nuts. He will literally have PTSD.
It's one of the worst missed calls in NFL history.
And they couldn't do that. Okay, so anyway, then the bottles and the beer cans come on, and everybody's mad, and Sark is like taking control of the situation, and getting everybody back.
I'm really glad he did that.
I thought he handled it the right way. Yeah, it's fine. And then for them to overturn it, and Kirby Smart to go absolutely ape crazy. Yes. I don't. Here's the problem, right? The repercussions of that are such that every SEC fan base and really every college fan base now sees that if you delay the game over a really bad call, there's a chance you can change it. I don't think there's any other conclusion you can reach.
No, and I don't like the precedent at all that sets, because I just don't want to see fans upset about a call. Because what if they're upset about a call and it's actually the right call, right? And they still, are just upset about it, frustrated about it, and start throwing bottles on the field.
That was an egregiously bad pass interference call.
It was horrible.
To all parties concerned, fans, Texas and Georgia, and the officials, that was a terrible pass interference call, and it needed to be overturned. Unfortunately, it can't. Now, I watched. I think I've told you this. Usually, the only thing I watch on is college football final, just to make sure I got all the highlights from all the games. I got a good vibe before we do our show. I just want at the bottom of the scroll, they were saying that SEC comes out and says that after conferences, referees are allowed to overturn their own calls. That might be well and good, but I've never seen it happen. I've watched plenty of SEC games over the years, and obviously tons of football, NFL and college. I've never seen it. I've
never seen a call overturn that turn a penalty into a turnover.
That isn't reviewable. It's not a reviewable call.
Yeah. No, I've never seen it before. Again, I guess you said it was the right call.
Did he get buzzed down?
I don't know. That's a good question. They were talking for a while. When they were talking, I thought they were going to throw a flag for unsportsmanlike conduct on our fan, which would have been completely justified, by the way.
Correct.
Because, I mean,
it was
a couple fans. There were probably 100 bottles on the field.
I almost wonder if they should have thrown the flag. Like, the call overturned. You get the ball at wherever he ended up with, wherever that was, somewhere deep in the red zone, wasn't it? His interception return, like the 6th.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. But then say you get a 15-yard penalty. Like that, to me, I don't even know it makes it right or wrong, because I still would have never seen that call overturned. But there
have to be something that said to let people know, hey, this is unacceptable, and you're costing your team by doing this.
Is Kirby smart in his post-game interview, him against Georgia against the world, and having to survive really bad calls in this place, yada, yada, yada? Is he one of the bigger douches in college football?
Well, he's certainly becoming one, which is
bro.
Dude,
you just won the game against the number one team in the country, and all you're going to do is gripe and moan? Stop.
Seriously, just give love to your players, man. Just give love to your players and your coaching staff for having a good plan, and your players are amazing, especially on your defensive players. We'll get to their quarterback here in a second.
Who's he look like, by the way? I was trying to tell my wife who he looked like. There's a meme goes around all over Twitter, but for the life of me, I couldn't remember who it was.
I'm not sure, but he's just the goofiest.
I thought you might know. Yeah, it was so goofy with his arms.
You just wouldn't believe that he actually played college football and was a first team All SEC safety.
Really?
I'm pretty sure.
You're talking about Kirby.
Yeah, Kirby. Yeah.
At Georgia. Whatever happened to coaches just going, great game by Texas. This was a great atmosphere. It was really great to come in and get a win over the number one team in the country. I thought my quarterback did great. I thought we battled back from adversity, and now we got to get ready to go play whoever the hell they got to go play next week.
Yeah,
when did it turn into I'm going to be a fan's message board? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you have to do that to motivate your team? Because with all that talent you have,
stupid.
It got elite dudes. But real quick though, man, with Texas, I mean, the offense never really in this game. Quinn Ewers was horrible.
29. We haven't even talked about this, dude. 29 rushing yards, Kevin.
Yeah, this was the first game. Good. This was the first game where I felt like we really, really missed having CJ Baxter out there to pick up those tough yards. Because you and I, we love watching nice passing offense, but at the end of the day, run the ball. We want to see you run the ball. And we couldn't do it. It's not like we didn't try. We just really couldn't get anything going. And
look, I thought
CJ Baxter is a guy who could pick up 4 yards, and I'll take 4 yards. Against a defense like that, I will take 4 yards a pop every play and be very happy about it. They were.
I thought Texas's rushing defense did a good job against ETN. He hasn't had a great year.
Yeah.
But he only ran for like 87 yards. A good game, not a bad game, but I thought Texas minimized that. They turned over Carson Beck. They didn't know. There was a couple big plays, I guess. But again, you just really are counting on your offense, much like Oklahoma, to do something.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I mean the defense, really good performance against a good team. Carson Beck, I thought both quarterbacks lost money, right? We've talked about these guys being first round picks, and neither of them
Yeah.
look like that at all. I mean, Carson Beck, 23 of 41 for 175, no touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Three
Yeah.
interceptions. And, and of course, Quinn, 25 of 43 for 211 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, sacked 5 times. And, of course, the fumble as well.
I didn't even realize that he attempted that many passes. That is awful efficiency for a Steve Sarkisian offense.
Correct. Yeah, it was bad, man.
That's
And it was,
bad.
again, the offensive line wasn't great. I'm not trying to pretend that they were. But if you go back and look, I'm more frustrated with the quarterback having no pocket awareness. You know how this is, man. When you go up against elite rushers, and they've got elite rushers all over the field, and they bring elite rushers off the bench, they're going to get pressure. But there has to be pocket movement and pocket awareness. You can't just stand there, and you can't drift away from it, away from a clean pocket, which invites more pressure.
Listen, OU fan really can't throw stones at quarterback play right now. So I will even maybe try to make skip Quinn a bone here. He's used to having a good running game to lean on, and it's really hard. It's really hard going every down you do every set of downs. You're 2nd and 12. Because what were they?
True.
What was their 3rd down conversion? I forgot to write that down. It was terrible, right?
It was
2 of 14, 2 of 16.
Yeah, I've got that here on 3rd down,
There
2
it
of
is.
15.
Yeah. That's terrible.
On,
but look at what Georgia's wasn't much better, though, was it?
No. It was a defensive dominated game, but the little opportunities that the offenses had, Georgia was just a little bit better, and they converted on those turnovers. A real key point in this game is when Texas had fought back, and it was 23-15. So it's a one-score game.
Yes.
We've got them at 3rd and 10 at their own 11-yard line, and they convert on it. They get the 15-yard pass, really good throw, and a really good job by Carson Beck there, stepping up in the pocket and hitting one of their guys, Arian Smith, on a crosser. And then the next play, they run the reverse flea flicker and hit the tight end Oscar Delp down the sidelines, 43-yard gain. Next thing you know, they're in the red zone. The quarter ends, we go into the 4th quarter. We get them into 4th down and 1, and they end up scoring on 4th and goal. And that was it. That was the end of the scoring in the game. Yeah. So, I'm happy with the way that we came back. I thought the game was still there, down 1 score, still in the 3rd quarter. But give them credit, man. That was
There's a couple things.
Go ahead.
There's a couple thoughts about that. You did not play a good game. So the question's going to be what I kind of brought up with Oklahoma is Texas going to be the type of team that gets better as the year progresses, right? Because if you get better, if Sark makes the adjustments, if Quinn gets his mechanics back under control, you're playing Georgia in the SEC championship game.
Yeah, everything is still there for us. Everything we want is still there.
Okay, a couple things. You make the SEC championship game, you're in the playoff. That's just facts. The top 2 SEC teams are in the playoff. Number 2, you beat them and you got a bye. So yes, everything's still in front of you. It will most likely be Georgia. Real quick though, let's just transition to SEC standings because I think this is really important to talk about what Texas has to play. First place, A&M at 4-0. So they beat Mississippi State 41-31, right? Or 31-21, 34-24. It doesn't matter. LSU, somehow LSU has recovered. Brian Kelly has again. This is that improvement trending in the right direction.
That was very, very impressive by them last night.
Georgia, they handled it. Georgia at number 3 now, 4-1. So Georgia's behind Alabama, but now Alabama has 2 losses in the SEC. So that's not nearly what if Georgia would have lost. Man, you're talking real craziness. Tennessee at 3-1. We're going to talk about that Alabama game. Missouri 2-1, Texas 2-1, Vandy 2-1. Bama 2-2, and then everybody else. Texas still plays A&M, and do you play anybody else that's in the top half of the conference? No,
I don't
right?
think so. No.
I mean, let that sink in. So you don't have to play anybody in the top half of the conference except for A&M. You have A&M's number. Everything's in front of you with, I think, even a little bit margin of error still. Maybe it's smaller, obviously, but it's, I don't know. I think
Yeah, I mean, and our fans, a lot of them are, we freak out. They're jumping off the bandwagon. We're doomed.
I don't need to freak out. That's crazy.
No, I don't think so either. Now, we have to get better. And I am a little concerned that we've had back-to-back poor performances. Now, we have probably played the best two defenses that we're going to play all season, but they are teams who can get after us defensively. Even the likes of Kentucky can get after you defensively with their defense. I don't know, Florida lit them up last night.
Yeah.
Right. But on their day, they can get after you. A&M with their defensive line can get after you too. So we have to get better. Nobody on our schedule is like Georgia. Nobody has that type of talent, that type of scheme, that type of coaching. Nobody else is like that. But we do have to pull ourselves up and bounce back. And the Vanderbilt game is not going to be easy. Going on the road, and they have a ton of confidence.
Yep.
Their quarterback thinks he's Johnny Manziel. Literally.
Are they ranked? Are they ranked now?
I don't know if they're ranked. I don't know if the rankings have come out yet. If they have, I haven't seen them.
I'm just going to look real quick. But yeah, you're right. You're 100% right.
So
no,
I want to see how we handle ourselves. On the road next week against Vanderbilt. Here are the SEC standings real quick, just so you can see them. So
I think that's what. So like you take a look at Oklahoma. Oklahoma still has to play Missouri. Still has to play Ole Miss and Bama
and LSU.
I mean,
yeah, you have the toughest remaining schedule in the country.
Oh my God! All right, Kevin, let's give us. We're going a little long today. It's okay though. This is a big weekend. Let's give a shout out to Brown O'Haver. Brown O'Haver is a public insurance adjusting firm. I'm trying to say something funny about OU losing to South Carolina so bad and relate that to an insurance claim, but I just can't get there. So if you've had an insurance claim, if you've had a fire or a wind event or a flood event, and you have to file an insurance claim for your property, whether it's home or business, call Brown O'Haver, 405-735-5510. Brown O'Haver gets their clients 30 to 40% more than they get on their own. You do not want to lose money on an insurance claim. Insurance costs are only getting more expensive. They're not getting less expensive. Your premiums are going up. Your deductibles are getting higher. You need to maximize every claim you file. If you have to file a claim, call Brown O'Haver, 405-735-5510. Kevin, there was some roof damage. People are still dealing with roof damage. If they got hit by that hailstorm 3 weeks ago, who do they call?
Yeah, give your friends a call at Pioneer Roofing. We can go out and give you a free inspection, let you know if you do need to file a claim. They can help you with the claim process. 405-549-2712. Again, free inspections, 405-549-2712. Pioneer Roofing.
Kevin, in addition to the Georgia-Texas game, which I don't know if lived up to the billing was right, but it was pretty drama-filled.
Yeah, it was drama-filled. It was a fun game to watch.
It was a fun game to watch. For a non, I was rooting for Georgia just because I want everybody to lose at this point.
Misery loves company, so I get that.
100%.
I dealt with this. Remember what you're feeling, by the way? 10 years, just so you know.
Yeah, I don't like this feeling.
No, it's a horrible feeling. In 10 years,
it's not a pleasant feeling.
You can't question the loyalty of Texas fans, even though we may get on your nerves, and there might be a lot of bad things you can say about us, but.
I do think, though, that Texas
I
think Texas is prone to a disproportionate amount of bandwagon fans, though.
You think so?
I think it's prone to it, right? It's a big state.
Yeah, anytime you get,
it's like you just kind of get the Dallas Cowboys.
It's a big market team, yeah.
It's a big market team. It's the Dallas Cowboys. Everybody's got the head now. They're winning, and that's all. That's the only. But hey, I don't. Whatever. Okay. But recapping Week 8. Oregon beats Purdue 35-0. Dylan Gabriel, 21 of 25 for 290 and 2 touchdowns. I just wanted to address this real quick. if we had Dylan Gabriel, I think we probably beat South Carolina. I don't think he has those 3 turnovers. Okay. It's hard to say one way or the other. I still think, though, at best, we're 5-2. I don't think he had enough. I don't think with this level of offensive line play, receiver injuries, and inept game management by the coaches and scheme that Dylan Gabriel is good enough to overcome any of this.
Right.
Does that mean I didn't want Dylan Gabriel? I talked about thinking that Dylan Gabriel would be really, really good to have, but he's not here. But I just had to make a mention of it. But he is having a very good year, and they moved to 7-0. BYU holds on against Oklahoma State. We talked about this being a potential trap game. Ollie Gordon finally has a good game, but BYU too good, staying undefeated, 38-35 in the Big 12. Miami over Louisville. Is Cam Ward the first quarterback taken in the NFL draft?
I still think it's Shedeur,
but it could be 1A and 1B.
It's becoming a conversation.
Their games are very, very similar. They just play dramatic game after dramatic game. They're kind of like Oklahoma and Kyler's year, maybe some of the back half of Baker's years. 52-45. Cam Ward goes 21 of 32 for 319. Tyler Show for Louisville, 31-51 for 342 and 4 touchdowns. It was a quarterback duel. That's like Big 12 stuff right there from back in the day.
Yeah, for sure.
Here, we got to talk about this game. The lead in to the Georgia-Texas game was Alabama and Tennessee. It was a defensive slugfest up until about midway through the third quarter when Nico Iamaleava started kind of waking up. Started waking up and making some plays with his legs and then turned it into plays with his feet. Dylan Sampson rushed for 139 yards, 2 touchdowns. The bulk of that coming in the second half as Alabama wore down. Kevin, let's fast forward to the fourth quarter. It is 4th and 22 on the Tennessee side of the field for Alabama. It's the Tennessee side of the field? Is that right? No, deep in their own territory.
Yeah.
Deep in their own territory, 4th and 22. There's just under a minute left, or under 2 minutes left, and they have all 3 timeouts. I thought it was very questionable to go for it on 4th and 22 when you have all 3 timeouts available. Because subsequently, you do hold Tennessee to 3 and out, and you get the ball back with like a minute, but you would allow them at that point to kick a field goal. Why is DeBoer going for it on 4th and 22 there? Is there something I missed?
The only thing I could think of is he didn't believe in his defense enough to get off the field in those 3 plays. That's the only thing that makes sense there. And I hated the call too.
I don't know that it mattered, dude. The odds of forcing them to punt, I don't know, from an analytics, I don't know what they were, and I don't know what analytics would have said to go for it or not. But the odds of forcing them to punt versus picking up a 4th and 22, it had to be higher on forcing them to punt with 3 timeouts.
Yeah.
Like, it just had to be.
It was a weird spot to be in, and it seemed like one of those things where, okay, if we punt, are we going to get the ball back with enough time? Yeah, it's a tough spot for a coach to be in, and clearly it was a wrong call.
It's going to be fascinating to see if Alabama misses the playoff in the first year. That would be a shock to the Tuscaloosa.
It really would. Base. And they have 0 margin for error left this season.
Yeah, what's their schedule? I see you about to click on it. Yeah, what do we got?
Okay, so we have.
They could lose to Missouri.
They've got Missouri. It is in Tuscaloosa. They go to LSU. That's going to be a tough game. The week game against Mercer. Then they come to Norman.
That's a win for them.
And then, of course, the Iron Bowl against Auburn, which, who knows, man? We know how that game goes. They should have beat them last year with Saban.
Tennessee improves to 6-1. And when they're looking good, man, they look good. And they look good in the second half. It's, they've struggled against other teams. We've seen it. But, man, Tennessee looked good last night.
They're a different type of team. They haven't been able to hit the deep shots, the deep post, the over route that they like to do. But they've been, give them credit, man. They're just running it and Just being effective, just making plays when they can.
Finding ways. Their defense is pretty good.
Their
I
defense
think
is very
Tennessee's
good.
defense is pretty good.
Yeah.
Iowa State, another one of these Big 12 teams to hold on against Central Florida. They do hold on. They win 38-35. They remain undefeated. So you still have two undefeated teams in the Big 12 with BYU and Iowa State. Clemson, Cade Klubnik, 23 of 35 for 308 and 3 touchdowns in a 48-31 win over Virginia. That is a significant bounce back. We saw how good Georgia's defense could be. So now you think to ourselves, well, maybe their defense was just really good against Clemson in particular.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get that Alabama first half out of our heads when it comes to Georgia. But maybe that's the aberration so far in the first half of the college football season. Maybe that first half against Alabama is the outlier and not the rule.
It certainly seems that way, and I think they're just healthier now. They've gotten some key guys back, so that defense looks scary.
Notre Dame beats Georgia Tech 31-13. A&M beats Mississippi State in a kind of a boring game, 34-24. They are ranked 14th in the country. Do they get into the top 10? Was there enough madness for them to sneak into the top 10?
I think
Alabama surely falls out of the top 10, right?
You would think so with 2 losses, but you never know, man. That name gets them the benefit of the doubt with voters.
We picked this game. I picked Nebraska because I did not trust Indiana. I said that they haven't played anybody. Whatever the case may be. Nebraska, Matt Rule is going to have them ready. Raiola is going to play great. And Indiana beat them and gave Nebraska their worst loss since like 2011, 56-7.
Insane, man. I mean, I picked Indiana to win, but I just did not think it would go like this.
Dylan Raiola had 3 interceptions and a fumble. Does that sound familiar?
Sounds very familiar.
Yeah, to me too. Kansas State beats West Virginia 45-18. They actually looked really good. Missouri over Auburn, 21-17. In the first half, Brady Cook goes out with an ankle injury, goes to the hospital, gets an X-ray and an MRI on his ankle, returns to the second half, spurs them on to victory. Let me ask you, Kevin, and I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here. Is Brady Cook the new Willis Reed?
Has to be.
I think so.
If they'd have done it in a college football playoff game, that would have been even more like Willis Reed.
Did you see Drinkowitz crying about Brady Cook's performance over Auburn in the second half?
I did not.
It was disgusting. Look, he's a football player, bro. He toughed it out. He played on a bum ankle. Every basketball player that's ever played basketball plays on a bum ankle. I'd say, hey, good on him. Good on him for coming back.
Good on him for coming back. I don't know if I've ever seen a guy go to a hospital and come back and come into a game.
Dude, he was running to the locker room. Stop it. Come on.
I'm just saying. Also, Auburn giving up an 11-point lead in the fourth quarter. I'm sure that sounds very familiar to you.
When the tide of emotion is in Brady Cook's favor because of his near-death experience, there's nothing that can hold it back.
Correct.
How about Illinois? My girl Lana Turner's Illinois Fighting Illini taking down 24th ranked Michigan 21-7. Michigan hopefully is out of the top 25 from now on because
I'm sure they are. Yeah, 4-3.
They're not. They're just not very good.
The offense is just even worse for Michigan. Will Johnson left the game with a lower leg injury. Yeah, doesn't look good. Yeah. We're talking about a top 5 pick here.
And after 3 losses, I don't think Michigan comes back from that, do they? Or is this Is this their second loss?
No, they're 4-3. No, they're 4-3. They're 2-2 in the Big Ten, but they're 4-3 overall. And there's nothing that they can do to fix this quarterback situation.
Michigan doesn't do it. Michigan doesn't do it with dramatic turnovers like Oklahoma. Theirs is more of a slow death.
Yeah, they just can't move the ball. They just can't convert first downs.
And I don't know which I'd rather have, honestly, because it was kind of nice knowing that the game was over 4 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
If you're Michigan, you just kind of keep being lingered on. You know,
it feels like you have a chance.
Yeah, that's correct. Army beats East Carolina 45-28. Navy over Charlotte 51-17. Kevin, you've got it there. I'm going to talk about the service academies for a second. Will you pull up the Florida Kentucky score and the USC Maryland score?
I can.
Here's the problem. The problem is Army and Navy are really good.
Yes.
And whatever happens, I think it's weird. Whatever's going to happen. I am fascinated by this. As y'all can tell, I'm obsessed by the fact that they could meet at the end of the game. 48-20. Okay, thank you. I'm fascinated by the fact that they could meet at the end of the season, and then meet again and the whole deal, right? All that's crazy. But even crazier is let's take Texas, right? This is an Oklahoma, Texas podcast. Let's take Texas. Texas wins out, which based on their schedule is a very real possibility, and loses to Georgia in the SEC championship game. Just as an example. Texas, though, secures a first-round bye. Not a first-round bye, I'm sorry. A home field advantage in the first round. Okay, they get to host in the first round. Maybe they're the 5th seed. Maybe they're the 6th seed. Okay, there are only 2 losses coming to the number 1 Georgia Bulldogs. Right, so they're 5th or 6th. What happens if a team like Texas has to freaking host a service academy?
Oh, man, I would hate that.
That is the worst possible scenario
Yeah.
for any team in the college football playoff, is to host a service academy, because you have to completely change your defensive scheme for one game.
Correct.
One single game. And the thing is, they don't make mistakes, either one of these schools. And if they don't make mistakes and they shorten the game and they keep it close, they've got a real, not just Texas, anybody they play. Say Georgia, say Texas, Georgia has to do this. It would be brutal. It'd be brutal, dude. I think they would probably win.
Yeah.
But man, how would you like that? You get to host the first year, you have to host a service academy.
Yeah, exactly. Where they're, 18 play 89-yard drives. That last 10 minutes.
Has Florida found something? Are they waking up? Is the giant waking up that is Florida, the Florida Gators?
Well, I mean, good for Billy Napier, right? At least they're staying competitive and just completely obliterating Kentucky in the second half. I mean, 48 points. Kentucky, we know,
supposed to have good defense. Yeah, held Ole Miss to 17 points.
Correct. And big play after big play by Florida. DJ Blackway, I mean, you can see the stats there. The completion percentage isn't great, 7-14, but 7 completions for 259 yards. What
That's
are we
crazy.
talking about here?
Yeah.
It was just big play after big play after big play. And for Kentucky, I mean, Brock Vandegrift just continues to struggle. 12 of 26, 165, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. It just hasn't looked right offensively for Kentucky all year.
No,
that's why they're 1-4 in the conference.
Yeah. All right, and then USC loses to Maryland in another last-second meltdown. I think the score was 29-28. Is that right?
Yeah, they just cannot. We talked about this earlier. They just can't finish games for whatever reason. And, their defense has been improved, but you just know if the other team has the ball at the end of the game, they won't be able to make a stop. We've seen it against Michigan. It's just, yeah, man. I don't know what to make of this whole Lincoln Riley thing. They've invested a lot in getting him there, and it's not working. And it's very concerning if you're a USC fan, because I just don't know where they go from here.
Miller Mott's has pretty good numbers, obviously. I would take those. 34-50 for 336 and 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. That's not the end of the world. But you got to be able to run the ball. And here's the deal. In the Big Ten, you really got to be able to run the ball. It's about to get cold. That's something that USC hasn't had to deal with very much. It is about to get cold. You go on the road and you in any of those big, even though look at Maryland. Maryland is a lower tier Big Ten team.
Big Ten team, yeah.
And if you don't run the ball well against them, I guess Maryland didn't run the ball either, but
no, they lit them up in the passing game. Look at those stats by their quarterback.
Yeah, was it 373? Yeah,
373, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception.
Kevin, it was not a good week for our picks. We both had Tennessee. No, I'm sorry. We both had Alabama. Tennessee took care of that. It's a loss. We both had Arkansas covering, loss. You had Indiana with the win in the cover. I had Nebraska, so you got a win there. We both had Texas to cover. If it was possible to drink the orange Kool-Aid, I did. And then South Carolina, we both had them to cover and win, and they did. So thank you, South Carolina. You fall to 19 and 22. I dropped below 500 for the first time all year, 20 and 21. We have a few minutes left, Kevin. Let's start with the University of Texas. You've got Vanderbilt next week. Any worries about a letdown game after the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. I just want to see, this will show us what this team is really made of, right? And walk around with your heads down, or you just get back to work, clean some things up, and get after it. I'm happy with how our defense played. I think that's going to be a challenge. And I think it should be motivating for them. Diego Pavia has proven to be a really good quarterback. He's fun to watch. He has no fear of anybody, right? Took down Alabama. He's not going to be the least intimidated by playing Texas. So it'll be a good environment there. So hopefully we can get after him and, have a good bounce back performance. But we got to get this offense right. Our quarterback has got to get right.
I think it's going to be a fascinating game to break down when we do our pregame because Vanderbilt is not old school Vanderbilt. They're a real team. This Pavia kid seems to know what he's doing. They're obviously playing with house money. If they smell any kind of blood in the water, it could be a long day for Texas. I don't think it will be. We'll talk more about it. I think Texas probably bounced back. I think it would have been a bigger trap game if Texas beats Georgia, a la Alabama beating Georgia. But not having happened, get your mouth bloodied for the first time this year, I think it's going to allow Texas to bow up and take care of stuff in Nashville. Okay, Oklahoma. We got to go to the Grove at Ole Miss. I've already said it. We're an 18-point underdog opening line. I'm not sure where we get offense from to take on Ole Miss. I'm not sure what the game plan is going to be. I've lost the fervor to encourage them to run the ball because we don't run it very good, but I also am scared to see them pass it. I don't really know what to do. As an Oklahoma fan, it is very rare that you find yourself at a loss of options. And that's what it feels like right now is we've tried both of these quarterbacks. That's not the problem. We've tried running the ball. We've tried passing the ball. Stuck at both. Our defense is hanging on for dear life. And, guys like Danny Stutzman are calling out the fans. Danny, you can be mad at the fans all you want. I'm sorry, bro. Look at your offense. Like, I don't know what football games are expensive. The experience is expensive. Guys are getting paid now. And now it's going to sound weird to say this, but the people in the stands are your customers. And you're telling that a business has never survived when you dictate to your customer how they're supposed to act. A business survives when you realize why a customer or client is unhappy and you address that issue. And right now, they are unhappy because that game that they spent good money for to attend was over in the first 5 minutes of the game. Through no fault of the defense. Maybe you stop Lenore Sellers, I guess, on one play. But through no fault of the defense, the game's over. So don't look at the fans. Don't look up and try to figure out what's wrong with the game unless you're looking all the way up at the coach's box. Okay? Because that's not where it's at. You got to go down to Ole Miss. The OU fans that travel to the Ole Miss game clearly care about the program. I care about the program. Most OU fans care about the program. What we don't care for is getting our ass kicked by South Carolina at home. I don't think I'm being unrealistic, Kevin.
Not at all. No, you can't. Eventually, after that many performances, people are just going to be out. Like you said, it's expensive to go to these games. It's hot in the stadium. It's uncomfortable. So, people are just going to hang around.
And that's coming from Kevin, Danny. You see that? You hear the vitriol in his voice? He's fired up. Kevin, in the NFL, Cowboys thankfully can't lose this weekend, right?
Yeah, I'm glad that there's no need to watch them play or even the highlights of them losing. They're not a good
They-
football team.
Does Baker get a Monday night game tomorrow?
I haven't even really paid attention to the NFL schedule so much into this Texas-Georgia game, so I'm not sure. Let's see.
Well, I don't know. During the commercials, I was pretty sure I saw Baker get a Monday night game tomorrow. And then number
Good for him.
2, there's some stupid game on ESPN Plus tomorrow night.
Oh, yeah, it's one of those double headers. Yeah.
Come on, man. Now, let me ask you a question. If you have NFL Sunday ticket, do you get that game?
You should, but I don't know. That's a good question. That is a very good question.
Because I can stomach it if I get that game because I can then watch it on my YouTube TV.
Yeah.
But if I have to go try to find it on the ESPN Plus app and I'm stuck trying to watch that game, I'm telling you right now, I ain't watching that game.
No.
It just pisses me off.
No.
What I do, here's what I do on Thursdays, Kevin, is girls have late soccer practice. We get home like at 9:15. I go to Amazon, I check the score. If it's a dog of a game, which it has been over the last couple of years, most of the time it's a dog of a game. I just turn it off and I go back to my YouTube TV and I just scroll through channels like what I do. I don't know. I mean, I know why they want to stream it because they have a captive audience. I know why they don't want you to be able to flip channels around so you can watch the commercials. I get all of that, but it sucks. And
yeah, it's not.
So I don't watch
I
it.
can't stand it. I can't stand it.
I don't even know who's going to be on that game, but if I can't get it, I'm not. I'm just.
It's the Cardinals and hosting the Chargers.
Oh, that's Kyler, dude. I like Kyler. Other than that, though, it's a pretty crappy game, right?
Yeah, I mean, but it's the NFL. People are going to watch.
Well, hopefully they're watching on NFL ticket. I wonder about that now, though, for real. Now that I say it out loud.
That's a good question.
I guess we could look at the guide and see, but that's gonna be interesting. All right, dude. Kevin, I know that it feels weird after recovering from a loss, but I think you can do it. You need to turn the page. Okay, get fired up for Vandy. Be happy you're not an Oklahoma fan today. Can you do it?
I can. I am. Yeah. And I
right.
can't believe about that. I'm not. The season is still there, so nothing to freak out about yet.
Oh my God. I don't even know. Kevin, have a great afternoon. Boomer.
Hook him.